Good evening, brothers and sisters. Bonsoir, frères. It is always a great feeling to be at the market steps with you, my brothers and sisters. The patriotic St. Lucians who are just waiting to exhale when the time comes. My brothers and my sisters, I listened to my colleagues this evening, and speaker after speaker has indicated to you that the situation is not good. And the message is very clear that over the past 3 years, Alan Chasney and his men and women are destroying St. Lucia. They are disrespecting the social partners of this country. They are torturing people for honest opinion. And what prevails in this country is fiscal irresponsibility. I do not have to tell you, my brothers and my sisters, that there is no distress fund under Alan Chasney. The subvention to the National Trust is gone. Nice is no more. Smiles have gotten serious under Alan Chasney. The North-South Highway has disappeared from the radar. And everything that was in the best interest of the people of this country have disappeared, including the laptops for the children in our schools. But you see, Alan Chasney, whilst he had destroyed all our social programs, he goes and raises funds one night. Ekika vini akoli se bo batay kokiye. Eka baysan ti kakadan, baysan ti kakadan. Give the Blind Welfare Association a little kakadan and taking selfies with them. My brothers and my sisters, no organization need to collect crumbs that fall from the table of power. What Alan Chasney needs to do is to put it in the annual estimates of revenue and expenditure. That's why he must put it. If you are serious about development, like Dr. Anthony did when he was Prime Minister, there was a distress fund. There was an allocation to the St. Lucia National Trust. That is how we conduct business. Development is never sustained by crumbs that fall from the table of power. No country has attained true and real development by depending on charity from the hands of deception and fiscal illusion. My brothers and my sisters, since coming into office, the Alan Chasney-led administration has borrowed over $1 billion, and we have not seen the growth that they promised. Where is the growth that they promised? We warned the government about lavish spending. Anybody who would borrow that amount of money and invest it in the economy of this country cannot have malpapai growth of 0.6%. Never. Any serious government that invested over $1 billion in the economy of this country, you would have economic growth. Growth would be climbing in St. Lucia like a homesick angel. My brothers and my sisters, we have told them about St. Jude's. For years, we asked them to complete St. Jude's. When the patriotic sons and daughters put enough pressure on them, you know what they did? They took trucks. They took everything and they went on the St. Jude site. But they have not touched the buildings. Instead of completing the hospital, they all around digging, removing soil. Then you can come and put the sand by the hospital. C'est juste là, c'est tif yo te kamete. And these days, la fouette qu'on est chien. La fouette qu'on est chien. Pas même un toy tractor, et ben toy truck qui est là. La fouette qu'on est chien. Bon, l'appli commence. Est-ce que tif là? Si un bagay pas fait, l'appli prend tif. Et c'est Jacques cantonnement là qui paye pour lui. So my brothers and my sisters, instead of completing the hospital, you know what they did? They went to look for a bogus report to try to justify their erroneous policies. So you can lay I prend rapport et que you do rapport a dit that l'hôpital là pas bon. But you see, I have read the report. It lacks a clear purpose, and that report was just used to gain respect for erroneous policies. So after 3 years, we do not have a hospital in the southern part of the island. And obviously, what we have is a contractor benefiting from the chaos. But I told them in the parliament that we must be very careful with that practice. That whilst we have lowered spending in education and healthcare, we are pumping millions in contracts to favored parties. And listen to what the IMF had to say. And I quote, a new report published by the International Monetary Fund has estimated that government corruption has robbed the world of $1 trillion in tax revenues, or 1.25% of global GDP. The report continued, and I quote, the IMF added that less corrupt countries dedicate a higher share of resources to social spending, including education and health, while more corrupt countries are forced to overpay for building roads and hospitals, unquote. Now, not because it is as a hospital that there will be sterilization of that perception of corruption. We must do everything to prevent the international community from viewing St. Lucia as a corrupt destination. We must do everything to prevent it. But when we do things like that, we are attracting unnecessary attention. In fact, we have cast a shadow of doubt on the morality and integrity of our government. Now, what you call a government that tries to give you the impression that they are spending more on social services and lower the tax burden. You call that fiscal illusion. It gives you the impression as if they are doing something so much for you. They have lowered VAT from 15% to 12.5%. That is a 16% reduction. But they have increased the tax on fuel by 60%. 60%. It means that perceived reduction in VAT, and they claim it was for poor people who go to the supermarket and shop. But when Dr. Anthony introduced VAT, when the Labour Party introduced VAT, we exempted and zero-rated over 100 items. Over 100 items. So the reduction in VAT was not for you, it was for the friends and the family and foreigners. And so whilst they give you the impression that they have actually reduced the tax burden, they increased the tax burden on you. Because by putting 150 on a gallon of gas, the vans that will go to Bouton and sell, they will pass on that additional cost to the consuming public. And at the same time, they increase airport charges. It means that the speculators pay a higher price for the tickets, for the travel. And so when they come back, they pass on the higher price to the consuming public. And so they have taken away your laptops. They have taken away everything from you. And they give you the impression as if they are doing something good. And they came to the parliament this year and they changed the tax structure, the personal income tax. Another bluff to increase the tax burden on the people of this country. My brothers and my sisters, you heard me cautioning Prime Minister Chasney and his government about Iwanora International Airport. I told them it was much better to allow the World Bank to deal with that operation. So if there is any cost overrun, any variation, the World Bank will deal with it. They have shifted the building closer to the river. And if they do not borrow much more, and I said that in the parliament, si yo pa prêter plus l'argent, c'est à 200 caloches pour yo ka fait là, eh bien yo pa fait pièce bagay là. C'est either 200 caloches pour yo ka fait là, or nothing. Because when you get closer to the river, we have problems. The existing space around the airport is insufficient to accommodate a parallel taxiway. And where you are going to locate the terminal, it means that you're going to create a bottleneck when aeroplanes are taxiing in and out of that airport. So tell Chasney, will and come again, my brothers and my sisters. My brothers and my sisters, another very disturbing development is Chasney's position on Liat. You see, a lot of people hear about Liat. Ekyokwe Liat commence faire service pour faire profit. Liat was not chartered to maximize profits. You cannot maximize profits in the Caribbean region if you were in the place of Liat. Number one, the islands are very close together. And that's the only part of the world where you find independent states are so close to each other. It means that the operating cost of any airline would be much higher than any other place in the world. So the Dash 8 that Liat operates, if you have that brand new aeroplane in Canada, and you have a brand new Dash 8 on the ground in St. Lucia, normally in Canada, they would fly for 4 hours, 4.5 hours. And after 10,000 cycles, the aircraft go into maintenance. After 20,000 cycles, go into maintenance, and then you have a D-check. Now a cycle, landing and takeoff. Le sa Canada ka volé. Liat have a come cycle when the one in Canada has not made one. So you airborne from George Charles, you land in Barbados in half an hour. Quick turnaround, you go to St. Vincent. Quick turnaround, you go to Grenada. Quick turnaround, you go to Trinidad and Tobago. And obviously, that aeroplane would go into maintenance much faster. In fact, 3 times, more than 3 times faster than the one in North America. The other problem is that those planes are flying over water, seawater. Another problem with maintenance on those carriers. So Liat was chartered, or it was born in 1956 by a Kititian to just provide service between Montserrat and Antigua. Liat had a very difficult childhood. It had foster parents many times. By 1957, BWIA had already grabbed 75% of the shares of Liat. And between 1957 and 1970, Liat started to expand and served at least 23 destinations in the Caribbean. In 1970, BWI said that they're going to drop the shares in Liat. A UK-based company called Cotline took over Liat, got 75% shares in Liat, and started using what they call Back 111 big jets. Already, those jets cannot be appropriate for those short routes because the operating cost is too high. By 1974, Cotline went bankrupt and dropped the bag. And it was then in 1974, that's why it's Liat 1974 Limited, that 11 governments of the Caribbean, recognizing the economic benefits of Liat, decided they're going to invest in Liat. And our good friend Venezuela assisted us in keeping Liat airborne. St. Lucia was one of the 11 islands. St. Lucia was one of those 11 islands, my brothers and my sisters. And it was incorporated on the 20th of September 1974 based on Antigua law. Between 1977 and 1980, Liat continued to expand and made its first operating profit in the 1980s. In fact, 1982 to be precise. Liat continued to grow, continued to consolidate, and island after island started withdrawing from the commitment to keep that Liat aircraft flying. Liat has restructured so many times, including getting rid of different types of aeroplane to reduce operating costs. So if you have one type of aeroplane, then you do not have to train pilots for different types of aeroplanes. There's a standard cockpit. Then you store one set of parts. All of that Liat did to ensure that it survived and it reduced operating cost. But you see, my brothers and my sisters, for St. Lucia to put a little kakada in Liat, they say, no, Liat must restructure. Liat must restructure. Liat just restructured not too long ago by changing to ATR 72s and ATR 42 to make the operations more efficient. So today, Liat has better on-time performance. When last you traveled on Liat? Liat most of the time is on time. More fuel-efficient aeroplanes. Now the size of those aeroplanes are just not the most appropriate for the route. Smaller aeroplanes would have been better. But why is it we use the bigger planes? Because passengers complain that the customers want a better and more comfortable aeroplane. Because imagine you come from Virgin Atlantic with two big pieces and you come in on Liat as if you're on a motorcycle. No. So they had to provide a certain level of comfort for the traveling public. And so if Chasney knows what's good for him, he better invest in Liat. Another pappy show again is to try to get out of ECA. Get out of the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority. St. Lucia was one of the islands that was involved in the Treaty of Baptiste. One of them. And ECA is one of the institutions we created. You have the Supreme Court, you have ECA, and we have our central bank. And every country is responsible under international law for it to regulate civil aviation activity in its jurisdiction. So what St. Lucia did, instead of having one, instead of Antigua having one, instead of St. Vincent having one, they pooled their resources together and have one civil aviation authority. And so we pay a basic kakada to it. Now when you remove St. Lucia from ECA and bring to Trinidad and Tobago, don't believe it's smooth sailing at all, because our laws would have to be changed to Trinidad and Tobago laws. Our regulations would have to be changed. Any training would have to be in Trinidad and Tobago based on Trinidad and Tobago law. And the other thing too, there are implications for the Trinidad Civil Aviation Authority, because the Trinidadian Authority would attract an audit from FAA, because it is taking on additional responsibility, and they would want to know whether they have the capacity to provide oversight over another island. And Category 1 status is important for Trinidad and Tobago, because they have planes that want to operate into the United States of America. It's going to cost us more to be in the Trinidad scenario. Why is it we want to destroy ECA? Just because Alan Chasney and his apostles believe that They don't like ECA and they are going to move someone else. St. Lucia should be encouraging the strengthening of the internal machinery of the OECS in order to further the collective task of regionalism, which our countries, small and large, must continually pursue as one of the fundamental instruments towards meaningful economic and social integration and development. Are we surprised then on the posture on Venezuela? Uni Maduro, qui couri élection, il joue plus vote parce que pièce les autres c'est moun qui couri élection et pays. Et quand Tiboyo Kakouye Guado just déclaré that il c'est président Venezuela. Bougla pas même un président Laos. Bougla pas même un président Laos. Il déclaré qu'on y a un président. Si pièce moun Amérique jodi a déclaré qu'il y a un président, le Trump c'est président, that person will be charged for impersonating a president. They will not tolerate it. But Guaido believes that he is the president of Venezuela. What St. Lucia is saying, we must not, according to the OAS Charter, interfere in the personal business of Venezuela, in the internal affairs of Venezuela. And it makes it clear, not directly, not even in an oblique fashion, to interfere with it. But you see, my brothers and sisters, from the time this government came into office, is one foreign policy blunder after another. The Prime Minister first accused the U.S. of deporting 800 criminals to St. Lucia annually. And in our entire history with the United States, they have never reached close to dumping 800 prisoners in our country. That falsehood caused the U.S. ambassador to issue a swift rebuke, and Chasney had to withdraw his statement. The Minister for National Security, he said, once you dismember the Marine unit from the police force, they will get funding for the Marine unit. Again, a quick rebuke from the United States of America. The Prime Minister flew from Hong Kong to Taiwan to tell the Taiwanese government that he was not coming to Taiwan at the time he went there. But he came to Taiwan to tell them he will come to Taiwan another day. Sounds foolish, right? A comedy of errors. Ek ou sa vini Seraflot epi ka pomne la oz tout patou? Pito Seraflot day, that is not proper protocol. They are walking hand in hand down the garden path of foolishness. But you know, brothers and sisters, since Chasney assumed the portfolio of external affairs on June 7, 2016, St. Lucia's foreign policy has been characterized by confusion and contradictions, embarrassment and incompetence. It is sad to add that our foreign policy has also been characterized by rank stupidity and subservience. You cannot be an undiplomatic invertebrate. You cannot be an undiplomatic invertebrate. You must have backbone. Not even the U.S. admires people without a backbone. The U.S. appreciates people who stand on a point of principle. So tonight, as I prepare to close, I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, that the time has come for all patriotic sons and daughters of St. Lucia to join that patriotic struggle for our liberation from the shackles of the United Workers' Party. We are charged with the responsibility of restoring socio-economic, political normalcy in St. Lucia. And we must pursue this task within the framework of our integrated whole. We the people must continue to subject the major issues confronting us to public ventilation. because we want to avoid being defined by St. Lucia's worst examples by the outside world. And as I close, I do not know if I have enough time to give you a message from Brother George. Maweve Brother George Yoswe. Masa dormi je. Tout lo swe ngaweve. Ek Brother George, ban mwen en commission by zot oswe. Parce que il m'a dit moi est-ce que parler market steps oswe ek m'a dit oui. But I do not have time. What do you say, my brothers and sisters? Would you get me off the hook without delivering that message, or you want to hear what Brother George had to say? Brother George dit moi, dit même manière moi do pour dire. And I'll try. Brother George dit comme ça. Pour dire même manière il dit. He said on the 6th of June 2016, the 5 to stay alive was a ball of poison fruits. And the time has come for St. Lucians to spit it out, to spit it out, to spit it out. Good night, my brothers and my sisters.